Hi, my name is Talon Robertson, and this is Make a Choice, Have a Voice YouTube channel and podcast. For my first video, I would like to do a short introduction of what my channel is about. My channel is about bringing acceptance and awareness to those who are discriminated against. A lot of people don't understand any differences at all in this world, and I want to bring education to those who don't and who want to learn. So that's what I want to do on my channel. So please like and subscribe down below. Talon. I'm on my way right now to go meet with my friend Shantae and her son Cooper. I'm starting a YouTube channel and podcast called Make a Choice, Have a Voice. My YouTube channel and podcast will be about bringing acceptance and awareness to those who struggle with discrimination on a daily basis. There's so many people in the world that struggle with it and you don't even know. My first video is going to be about a little boy, Cooper. He has dwarfism, and his mom is a single mom, and it's going to be about their trials that they have to go through, her being a single mom and having to deal with that, and Cooper being only just a little boy and having dwarfism. So I'm almost there right now, and I hope I can bring the awareness that I need to. Excited, we just got here. As you can see, we have a little audience. Hi. We're just walking in right now. So I'm just gonna tell her, we're just gonna Hi. Hi guys, so we're here at Shantae's beautiful home. This is Shantae and her son Cooper.
Hi. Can you wave? Say hi.
So tell me a little bit about Cooper's dwarfism.
So Cooper has a type of dwarfism that's called achondroplasia. Kind of a big word, so it gets called achon for short. And achondroplasia is actually one of the most common forms of dwarfism. Of all of the types of dwarfism, it makes up about 70% of dwarfisms.
Okay. What do medical professionals think about this condition?
I think they all kind of have varying opinions on achondroplasia. There's not a lot of research, to tell you the truth. So research is still growing. We were actually contacted about a week ago about being part of a research study because they're trying to understand more of what is involved in dwarfism. Like anything, it can vary. Some cases are very severe, some cases are very minor. So it's kind of hard to categorize things because they vary so much. Yeah.
So is Cooper's pretty severe, or?
I would say Cooper is moderate. He's been right on the 50 percentile for everything, measuring as far as growth, as far as development, and then as far as some of the health problems that he has had, I would say he's right on the 50 percentile. So he's pretty average.
Okay. Is there would somebody without it live longer than somebody will? Is there any?
So right now, the statistics show that the life expectancy for individuals with dwarfism and without are the same. Okay. However, individuals who do have dwarfism have a lot more medical conditions that they have to deal with. So a lot of those are back problems and very curved spines and things. And that can lead to a ton of other medical conditions that can shorten your lifespan. So it just kind of varies.
Okay. Is dwarfism considered a disability?
That's a tough question. So dwarfism, and especially achondroplasia, is registered as a type of disability that is on the ADA, Americans with Disabilities site. So it is a registered disability. However, lots of individuals with dwarfism will tell you, no, I don't have a disability. I can do the same things that everybody else can. Don't treat me any different. I'm just small, that's all. So it kind of makes it hard. Sometimes it's a disability, sometimes it's not.
I think that's going to be the name of this video. Just small, not that's all.
It kind of fits.
Yeah. Are airbags safe for a little person?
They are not. So one of the characteristics of achondroplasia are short, long bones. So as you'll see, Cooper's femur is smaller than his lower bones, which with ours, they're pretty much the same. His femurs, they're much shorter than his lower leg bones. So if you can imagine driving in a car, we hold the steering wheel almost with our arms all the way out. Individuals with dwarfism, they don't have this bone, so it's going to put it so much closer to your rib cage and your sternum. If you're sitting this far away from your steering wheel and the airbag goes off, that direct impact can kill you. So it's actually more dangerous for a person with dwarfism to drive a car that has an airbag. You can take your cars into special facilities that they will disable your airbag for you to prevent those problems. Individuals with dwarfism, they drive normal cars. They have extenders that they put on the pedals.
Okay.
And they just have to sit closer to the steering wheel. So a lot of the times their airbags need to be disabled for safety.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What are their medical, physical, and emotional challenges?
So, medical. There's lots of different conditions that can affect individuals with, specifically, we're going to just talk about achondroplasia, dwarfism, because I'm not an expert by any means in the other types of dwarfism.
Yeah.
So this is just specific to achondroplasia. One of the first things that they look for in kids with dwarfism is hydrocephalus. Kids with dwarfism have a really big head. If you measure mine and Cooper's head right now is about 2 inches bigger than my head. So he's 5 years old. He has a really big head. Along with having a big head, they want to measure the pressure and the fluid inside your head. So that is what hydrocephalus means, is fluid and pressure inside of the head. If you do have pressure inside the head and fluid, they have things that are called shunts that they can go and put in, and that helps the brainstem kind of drain fluid down your body and release it so it doesn't all stay in your head. Imagine having a really bad headache with tons of pressure. They would have that all the time. So it's no way of living. You have to really take care of hydrocephalus. So that's one condition that they like to look for. The next condition is called, I don't even know what the name of it is, but compression down the spine. So Cooper's actually had this. This has been something that we've dealt a lot with. So when someone is born with achondroplasia, dwarfism, the narrowing of where your spinal cord and your spinal column is, it's very narrow. So a lot of times that can compress your spinal cord. So you hear of these injuries, of spinal cord injuries, where your spinal cord gets bent and people can lose, the feeling in their legs and things like that. That's the same with kids with achondroplasia. If theirs is too narrow, they have the same damage on their spinal cord as people who get paralyzed, paraplegics, quadriplegics. So it's something they really have to watch. When Cooper was 3 months old, that's the time when they first start doing MRIs on kids because they think that they can finally go under sedation. When we got Cooper's MRI results, his foramen magnum, which is the opening into your skull, was pretty much non-existent. It was squeezing off his entire spinal canal. So at 3 months old, Cooper wasn't moving his arms and legs at all. So that was kind of a,
concern.
Yes, exactly. And the doctors were, wary of that. And sure enough, we got the results that it was very compressed. So he had his first decompression surgery at 3 months old, where they went in, opened that hole. They also decompressed a little bit down his spine. So they did another MRI at a year old to find that it was still compressed. They needed to open up wider, and they decompressed all the way down to his C4 vertebrae. So that's very common with achondroplasia. So we have to watch that. We go in, it used to be every 6 months for MRIs to check that. Now it's about every year. And we meet regularly with his neurosurgeon and his orthopedic surgeon. Another medical condition that is very common is bone problems. So with having a compressed spine, they also have severe bent spine. Cooper, can you stand up for me for a minute? So Cooper has a really curved spine. So it pops out right here, but the main problem is actually down here under his bum. So his spine, it goes like this, and then it goes down, and then it goes back up like this, where his tailbone is, and kind of curves back up. This can also cause problems because it starts pinching the spinal canal. So we have to watch that. So Cooper will probably need to have his straightened in a little bit. And we're just kind of waiting to hear from doctors when they think that that would be a good time. Another common medical problem with dwarfism is bowed legs. They say that the word achondroplasia means with a lot of cartilage. So they kind of assume that their bones are filled with cartilage as well. So they're pretty flexible. Cooper can do the splits. He can pretty much do anything because he's so flexible. So kids with dwarfism get really bowed legs, like you see, longtime rodeo stars get bowed legs.
Yeah.
So kids will have to go in and have their legs straightened, sometimes multiple times, to keep them straight so that they don't develop other medical problems associated with having these bones that are misformed. So going back to the start of your question, physical, mental, emotional problems. So I would say, to answer that question, that comes along with having any type of a disability. Any type of disability is going to take a toll on your emotional and mental health. It's hard to be different unless you can kind of learn to accept that and embrace it and see yourself as one of a kind, and I'm going to make this, my best feature. It's hard. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel alone. You're going to feel like everything is hard for you and you don't know why you're this way. So I think that is a really hard thing to overcome for a lot of people, but there are several individuals that I can point out specifically and say, you know what? They've used their dwarfism for good. They've learned that they can use that to their advantage because they're going to get advantages that other kids have never had just by simply using this disability that they've been given. And I think that's kind of one way you have to look at it is, I can't change this, so what can I do to work with this?
That's great. What is the medical prognosis of a little person?
So the prognosis for achondroplasia is just like everybody else. The only thing that is different is the eventual height of that individual. They're expected to live just as long, have the same life expectancy. However, the average growth is usually between 4 foot and 4'5". So there's a medical statistic that anyone under 4'11" is considered to have a type of dwarfism. So, Cooper may be up to 5 feet tall. You never know. Nowadays, kids are actually having limb lengthening procedures. And there's also lots of studies going around with, I don't know what they would call it, like growth helpers, growth inhibitors to help kids get those long bones to grow. So, I think these statistics in the near future are going to change because medical awareness and medical education is actually changing as well. So it's kind of hard to state statistics right now because I think they're going to change.
Yeah. Do you know any history when they really started looking into all of this kind of medical care that they have now for little people?
Well, so little people have been around for a long time. Yeah. Game of Thrones has become a worldwide hit, and that entire series and that entire book series that came around a long time before the HBO movie, I don't know what you would call it, it's centered around an individual dwarfism. That's the whole premise of the book, is this kingdom who has, has been the top of their, all of the kingdoms forever. And then all of a sudden they have a kid with dwarfism. It ends up killing the queen and it completely tears the family apart. And it's kind of that dwarfism was almost the downfall of this whole kingdom because nobody knew about dwarfism. And I think that the cinemedia has come a long way because it ended up being that Tyrion Lannister has become one of the most recognized names in Hollywood, and people are looking at him in a totally different light, realizing he can't do anything that anyone else can. But guess what? He has this, disease that so many other people have, but you never hear about it and you never see it.
Yeah.
So, it's been around for a long time. It's nothing new. Back in the olden days, I would say probably around the 1700s, 1800s, people who had disabilities were pretty much shamed from society. The only place that they could find jobs were in the circus. They would, adopt these circus freaks and bring them together and put them in a show that people could come and laugh at them and see them. They never learned anything from them. They just mocked them. So it's come a long way since then, and I'm glad.
Yeah. And I don't think that people realize that that's has always been up until now. Mm-hmm. People think, oh, they're not discriminated against, but it still happens because it's been around forever.
100%. It still happens every day.
Yeah.
And I think that media has actually made a huge influence on this because there's positive shows out there. Seven Little Johnstons, The Roll-Offs, Little People, Big World, The Little Couple. This is finally showing people different types of dwarfism and how these people live with it and how they can do the same things that anybody else can.
Yeah. How many different types of dwarfism are there?
So there are over 400 types of dwarfism.
Really?
A lot of those are just considered undiagnosed. Those are just types that they can actually cluster into different areas. So, like I said, achondroplasia makes up 70% of the types of dwarfism, but there are so many other types. So if you've ever heard of the disorder, it's a brittle bone disease, and I can't remember the exact name of it. It has a name. It's a very long name, but that's a type of dwarfism. There's so many different things, and they all have very different characteristics to it. We have several friends that are just considered undiagnosed. They don't know what they have. They don't know what to expect until they can find clusters of people that they can group together with similar characteristics. They don't give it a name.
Does Cooper understand, everything?
Do you understand it? You don't know? Yeah. That's a hard question. I think that Cooper understands the differences that he sees. He has a little brother who's 3 years old. Cooper's 5 years old, and the 3-year-old is much taller than him. So he now looks up to his little brother. So Cooper recognizes that he's shorter. Cooper loves sports, and he'll say, "Mom, am I going to be tall like Dad?" His dad is 6'4". And I have to tell him, "No, Cooper, you won't be 6'4", but you'll probably be 4'4", So I try to make it realistic for him and try to make him understand. But no, I don't think he's even begun to grasp the concept of what he's going to have to live with, for the rest of his life. And I think that's okay. We try to approach it in a positive light, and I try to answer any questions that he has, but it's going to be a huge learning curve for him. And I hope he can learn to, roll with the punches and stand up for himself and, not take crap from people. He doesn't deserve that. I want him to be proud of who he is and be able to talk his way out of hard situations and defend it. I think the biggest thing you can do is spread awareness. If people understand his situation and where he's coming from, they're more likely to understand, and they're not going to make fun of that. They'll be more understanding.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're kind of awesome, huh?
Yeah, you are.
Oh. So, with restrooms, because I know you have told me stuff about this before. How does that work? Is there a special way that Cooper has to do it?
Restrooms are hard. And I didn't know any of this before having a son with dwarfism. So we've just recently gotten Cooper potty trained. Finally. Finally. It's been a big deal. But we have to make accommodations for Cooper in the restrooms. So he can't climb up on top of the toilet by himself. So we have had special stools made that have 2 steps and have handles that he can hold on to. And then they have handles on the top and on the side so that he can help kind of maneuver himself while he's on the toilet. Cooper cannot reach to wipe himself. So right now I'm having to help him with that. When he's in school, we will have to set up a part of his, there's an actual name for it. You'll have to edit this. I can't remember the name of it. FEC, IEP, his IEP. I think it's his IEP. That the teachers will have to help him with that until we can figure out a way to do things better. He can't reach the sinks. He has to have a step stool to reach the sinks. So bathrooms have definitely been a big problem. And another big problem is bathrooms in public are not accommodated.
Yeah.
You don't see stools in every restroom. You don't see special accommodated toilets for people who are little. Just recently, the Salt Lake Airport has finally gotten these pull down stools that help you reach the sink. And those are essentially just for little kids who can't reach the normal sinks. So Cooper has such short arms, he can't reach the soap dispensers. He can't reach the paper towels. He can't, it's really hard. How are you supposed to use a public restroom when you can't reach anything? So restrooms are a really hard subject with people with dwarfism, because right now it's not acceptable out in the real world because it hasn't become noticed yet. So hopefully that'll change.
So to get into a little more heavier topic, in Cooper's life, what have you seen as far as discrimination?
So I'm going to have to start that out by saying that our experience with dwarfism so far has been 100% positive. We haven't necessarily had any, debilitating moments where he's been made fun of or people have been mean. We have had a couple of, weird situations where we're at the pool over the summer and I'm walking with Cooper and I can see a group of kids, kind of pointing and laughing. And guess what? Like, I start walking right towards those kids and they see mom coming and they run. So I feel like I'm very much mama bird in those situations and I stand up for him, but I want him to learn how to stand up for himself. No one deserves to be made fun of. So I want him to be able to stand up to those people who are pointing and laughing. And I want him to say, hi, like, would you like a picture? It lasts longer. Like, there's no need to point and stare. I want him to use that to his advantage because nobody deserves to be made fun of. So our experience has always been very positive. We do have lots of close friends who have caught people taking their picture. And so I have never noticed that so far, and I don't know how I'd handle that. I think I'm pretty oblivious to things going on around me, and I think that is for my protection. So, but I don't have a problem answering questions for people. People have come up to me at Lagoon and said, hey, does your son have that same disease that the guy on Game of Thrones has? And, it leads to this whole conversation spreading awareness. So I think it's great. I love when people ask questions. A lot of moms that I have talked to have said the worst thing you can do is tell your kid to shh. Like, don't ask questions and quit pointing. They should go up to people. People have names. Learn their names. Say hi to them. Ask them, what makes you different? What makes you individual? Get to know them on a personal level instead of just ignoring it and pushing it under the rug.
Yeah. I've never even thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
As a single mom, what trials have you gone through with it? So,
being a single mom is not what I thought I would end up as a 30-something adult. It has been hard, and on top of that, having 2 kids is hard in itself. I have lots of health issues of my own. I have type 1 diabetes and several autoimmune conditions, and I really have to limit what I do. I have to go to bed on time. I have to make time for myself, because if mom's not on her A game, the whole family is affected, and I don't have anybody to pick up my slack. So my family does help me a lot. And I really look forward to my weekends when my kids go with their dad, because I need that weekend to recover. Yeah. So that's been my biggest challenge, is just my health and trying to manage everything.
I actually didn't know that.
Yep.
So that's...
I try to hide it, but sometimes it shows.
What do you think the hardest thing that Cooper's ever had to do?
So Cooper is 5, and I think the hardest thing that he has ever had to go through was recovering from his 2 decompression surgeries. Those are very severe surgeries, and it's several days in the hospital and really trying to recover. He's also had some pretty severe illnesses that he's gotten. He's had RSV twice. He has such a narrow airway. If he catches anything respiratory, he's in the hospital because he literally can't breathe. So those are always really hard, and those take weeks to recover from. And he's an active kid. He likes to be active. He likes to run around. So it's really hard when he doesn't feel good. So those are definitely the couple of the hardest experiences he's had.
Do you think that there needs to be more awareness and acceptance of those who do have dwarfism?
Absolutely. I think awareness is the key to success. The more people are educated and know about dwarfism, the more they'll just accept it. I think right now we're in a really good place with society that people are open to accepting people's differences and they want to learn about them. So I think that we should just run with that and, learn about everything we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the proper terms?
There are a few. So individual dwarfism is a great one, but every single person has a name. So I would say the very first thing you should call them is by their name. Cooper is Cooper. Cooper's not an individual with dwarfism. He's not a little person. He's not an LP. He's just Cooper. But there are some terms that are acceptable and the ones that are better to use. So, like I said, little person or little people, they can abbreviate that for LP. So you could say Cooper's an LP. Cooper has, he's achon for short for achondroplasia. That's also acceptable. Also, individual dwarfism or dwarf. A lot of individuals don't like to be called a dwarf. So I would say kind of use that one with caution, but individual with dwarfism is better sounding than just a dwarf.
Yeah.
The one that we do not want to use and something that is actually very discriminatory is the term midget. That was actually started way back when there were circus freaks. And that was kind of what they termed them as being a derogatory term because they were just put on display to be looked at. So nowadays, no one likes the term midget. That's one that, it's kind of along the terms of political correctness with, retard or something like that. So that one we should just take out of the books and not use it. But always refer to their name, person with dwarfism, or a little person.
Okay. Is there any support groups? You said you had friends, close friends.
Yes. So I have made so many friends within our community and all over the world. It's actually really neat to be a part of this community where we all share something in common and we don't even know each other. So there is an American society in the U.S. called the Little People of America, LPA for short. And they have a wonderful website if you ever want to get on there, and they have tons of information about the different types of dwarfism, facts and questions. And that's a great place for parents of little people because it also refers you to the medical advisory board doctors who specialize in this condition because it's really hard to find and they're very few. So you get on their list and there's about 10 names and that's it. So it's wonderful to have those resources.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of Facebook groups. That's kind of become the commonality of where you turn to find something. So there's Facebook groups for just parents of little people. There's Facebook groups for little people. There's Facebook groups for Latter-day Saint little people. There's just lots of different Facebook groups, which I think is amazing. You can use the hashtag achondroplasia and you can find so many friends. I met some of the moms that were most influential to me off of Instagram by just looking at their hashtags, trying to figure out. I was 28 weeks pregnant and just been diagnosed with a kid with achondroplasia, and I had no clue what that was. You Google achondroplasia on the computer and you get a lot of scary images.
Yeah. But
you type it in Instagram and it was some of the cutest kids I'd ever seen. So I reached out to these moms and said, hey, I'm a new mom. I'm going to be having a baby soon. What advice can you give me as somebody who's gone through this? And I get that now because I use the same hashtags and people can reach out to me. So I think that's a really good way to help, spread awareness and to reach out to people who might be soon going through what you've already been through.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
I love it.
Well, I know that I would love to hear from Cooper.
Can you say hi to Talon?
Hi.
She has a couple questions for you. Do you think you can answer them?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's see. What is your favorite superhero?
Batman.
Batman? What's your favorite thing to do outside?
I don't know.
He likes to jump on the tramp. Say it out loud.
Yes.
I I like to jump on the tramp.
I like to on tap.
What is your favorite pet?
Louis.
Louie. What do you love about Louie?
My ball hate keep beating me to him every time.
Oh. Do you want to tell her about your soccer team and your baseball team? Tell her about it.
So my soccer team, my baseball team, really good. We're not really good playing at baseball.
Yeah. How many goals did you score last year? How many? 2. Huh. Do you want to invite Talon to come see you play soccer?
Yeah.
Can you say, Talon, will you come watch one of my games?
Yeah. It was something.
Yes,
You're a
of
little shy.
course.
Yeah, you're a little shy for Talon, huh?
Yes.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
No.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Tell her thank you.
Thank
Them
you.
knuckles?
Give her knuckles.
Thank you so much for doing this. This was
Thank you,
really
Talon.
awesome.
I hope I answered the questions. There's a ton more of medical problems that we could go into. I only cleared the surface on those. So
Yeah.
And go. Oh, excuse you.
Dude,
That was the ball.
I understand.